Découvrir.
Louis Dire, lecture apéritive.
Make Room de Harry Harrison. The sun was higher now, and the heat was mounting in the silt tar and concrete valley of the streets. The band of shade was smaller, and the steps were so packed with humanity that he couldn't leave the doorway. He carefully pushed by a teeny, runny-nosed girl, dressed only in ragged grey underwear, and descended a step. The gaunt women moved aside reluctantly, ignoring him, but the men stared at him, with a cold look of hatred stamped across their features that gave them a strangely alike appearance, as though they were all members of the same angry family. Andy threaded his way through the last of them, and when he reached the sidewalk, he had to step over the outstretched leg of an old man who sprawled there. He looked dead, not asleep, and he might be, for all that anyone cared. His foot was bare and filthy, and a string tied about his ankle led to a naked baby that was sitting vacantly on the sidewalk, chewing on a bent plastic dish. The baby was as dirty as the man, and the string was tied about his chest under the pipestem arms because its stomach was swollen and heavy. Was the old man dead? Not that it mattered. The only work he had to do in the world was to act as an anchor for the baby, and he could do that job as well alive or dead. Christ, but I'm morbid this morning, Andy thought. It must be the heat. I can't sleep well, and there are the nightmares. It's this endless summer and all the troubles. One thing just seems to lead to another. First, the heat. Then, the drought. The warehouse thefts, and now the Ulsters. They were crazy to come out in this kind of weather. Or maybe they're being driven crazy by the weather. It was too hot to think. And when he turned the corner, the shimmering length of the 7th Avenue burned before him, and he could feel the strength of the sun on his face and arms. His shirt was sticking to his back already, and it wasn't even 8:45. It was better on 23rd Street, in the long shadow of the Crosstown Expressway that filled the sky above, and he walked slowly in the dimness, keeping an eye on the heavy pedicab and tuk-tuk traffic. Around each supporting pillar of the roadway was a little knot of people clustered against it, like barnacles around a pile, with their legs almost among the wheels of the traffic. Overhead, there sounded a waning rumble as a heavy truck passed on the expressway, and he could see another truck ahead, parked in front of the precinct house. Uniformed patrolman was slowly climbing into the back, and Detective Lieutenant Gracioli was standing next to the cab with a noteboard, talking to the sergeant. He looked up and scowled at Andy, and the nervous tick shook his left eyelid like an angry wink. "It's about time you showed up, Rush," he said, making a check mark on the noteboard. "It was my day off, sir. I came as soon as the call boy showed up. You had to put up a defense with Gracie, or he walked all over you. He had ulcers, diabetes, and a bad liver. A cop is on duty 24 hours a day, so get your chunk into the truck. And I want you and Kolosik to bring in some dips. I got complaints from the center street coming out of my ears." "Yes, sir," Andy said to the lieutenant's back as he turned toward the station house. Andy climbed the 3 steps, welded to the tailgate, and sat down on the board bench next to Steve Kolosik, who had closed his eyes and started to doze as soon as the lieutenant had left. He was a solid man, whose flesh quivered somewhere between fat and muscle, and he was wearing wrinkled cotton slacks and a short-sleeved shirt, just like Andy's, with the shirt also hanging over the belt to conceal the gun and holsters. He opened one eye halfway and grunted when Andy dropped down beside him, then let it droop shut again. The starter whined irritably, over and over, until finally the low-quality fuel caught and the diesel engine slowly thudded to life, shuddered and steadied as the truck pulled away from the curb and moved east. The uniformed policemen all sat sideways on the benches so they could catch some of the breeze from the truck's motion, and at the same time watch the densely populated streets. The police weren't popular this summer. If anything was thrown at them, they wanted to see it coming. Sudden vibration racked the truck, and the driver shifted to a lower gear and leaned on his horn, forcing a path through the swarming people and hordes of creeping man-powered vehicles. When they came to Broadway, progress slowed to a crawl as people spilled over into the roadway next to Madison Square, with its flea market and tent city. It was no better after they had turned downtown, since the Ulster were already out in force and heading south, and were haltingly slow in getting out of the truck's way. The seated policemen looked at them indifferently as they rolled by, a slowly surging mass, grey heads, bald heads, most of them with canes, while one old man with a great white beard swung along on crutches. There were a large number of wheelchairs. When they emerged into Union Square, the sun, no longer blocked by the buildings, burned down unrelentingly upon them.